And good morning and welcome to the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners meeting of September 13th, 2022. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
Move the agenda.
Kevin moves the agenda.
Second.
And second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. All right, we have first in front of us is Ditch 35 hearing, final public hearing. Purpose of the hearing is to consider the petition for the drainage project with all matters pertaining to the detailed survey report and the viewer's reports on the determination of benefits and redetermination of benefits. We will now have the drainage staff, Craig Austinson, go over the jurisdictional documents.
Okay. This is regarding a petition for improvement and redetermination of benefits in Blue Earth County Ditch 35. Blue Earth County Ditch 35 is located in Mapleton Township. Its watershed is approximately 2,700 acres. We received a petition for improvement on September 17th, 2019. The preliminary hearing was continued twice on March 2nd. Engineer Charles J. Brandel was ordered to prepare a final engineer's report. Mr. Brandel filed the final engineer's report on January 3rd, 2022. A hearing on the final report was held February 22nd, 2022, and was continued to today. Today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we requested the Drainage Authority to consider the updated reports and make a ruling on the draft findings in order establishing the improvement. Hearing notices were mailed on August 11th, 2022. Notice was posted of this hearing at the Blue Earth County Courthouse, located at 204 South 5th Street, Mankato, Minnesota. Notice of public hearing was also published in the Mankato Free Press for 3 consecutive weeks. There are 3 action items that will be considered during this hearing. First action item will be the redeterminations of benefits finding to order. What we did is we did not take action on it, just in case there was changes during the continuance on that. The viewer will talk a little bit more about that. Action item number 2, the improvement lateral findings in order. And then 3, assuming the improvement lateral findings in order is approved, there'll be a resolution to finance it. That's it for jurisdictional documents.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Craig. I guess at this point, can I get a motion to accept the affidavits and to the legal record?
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Now we hear from our engineer, Mr. Chuck Brandel. Morning,
Good
Chuck.
morning.
Morning, Chuck.
Joe Donker's with me here. We've got just a few updates. We won't go over the whole project, but just a quick overview and then just what has been updated as part of the amendment from February. So, I do have drone footage of the ditch system along. If you recall, the system is in very poor shape with ditch slopes caving in, and the proposal, the main part of the improvement project is to fill in a portion of this and replace it with a 60-inch pipe and an overflow. So,
Chuck, could you move the microphone a little closer?
how about that? Is that better?
No.
How about that? Okay. I'll just talk louder. How about that? Now you can hear me? I know. I'll try to talk this way as much as I can. Okay. So the main portion was to fix erosion issues with the 60-inch pipe filling in a portion of the ditch, and then there was a northern improvement. Just a little bit of history. There's been a lot of work attempted on this ditch to stabilize it, about $500,000 over 10 years. The watershed itself is about 3,100 acres, fairly flat watershed. The tile was constructed in 1915, the open ditch in 1957. So here is the watershed map. The red line designates the watershed boundary. Kind of hard to see from this view. Just kind of move forward. Here's a little better view. So the red line is the watershed boundary. The red line here is the proposed open ditch that's to be filled. The green lines represent proposed tile, and then the yellow line was a portion that we were going to abandon. Just backing up, here are some of the pictures from the drone footage showing the sloughing along the open ditch.
So kind of just going over the changes from the original FER to today's final report. The yellow line, this was going to be abandoned after working out an agreement with the landowners. It is now not going to be abandoned, and when the time comes for it to be replaced, we came up with another design to reduce the size, to make it smaller, to size it to just this area for drainage. So it'll be a 24-inch at its outlet, transition to an 18, and then eventually to a 12, which gives it about a half-inch drainage, a little bit above it, 0.65, but it's about half of the drainage capacity of the original 36-inch tile.
So again, the only change is on the we'll call it the Jaeger properties, is that portion in the future can be downsized, and that saves about $400,000 in the future. So the cost estimate is essentially the same, except for we have taken off the abandonment, shown an improvement cost in the future, which saves $350,000. That portion of tile will not be constructed at this time, but when it is needed to be repaired. So the total landowner cost at this point is $2,823,899 estimated. So that's a summary of what's changed, and we can go over it in more detail. But at this point, based on the viewers' updates, the project is cost-effective, feasible. We feel we've met all the environmental criteria, and we have a net benefit of approximately $200,000. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, gentlemen. I guess at this point, we should now hear from the viewers. Come forward.
This will also be a summary of our meeting, our hearing in February. The viewing process is a mass appraisal process that values a universe of properties as of a given date using a standard methodology, employing common data, and allowing for statistical testing. My name is Dan Ruby. I was the lead viewer on this project. Bill Anderson was a viewer. Lance Roberts and Ron Rehnquist is a certified appraiser. He pretty much acted as our supervisor anytime we had questions or needed to do the final work on this. He was involved. The net benefit for the redetermination, as to nothing else had changed since the hearing, was $5,968,781. There were 6 A's, 375 B's, 2,521 C's, 146 D's. There was benefited acres was 3,049, with there was 49,110 feet of tile, and there was I believe buffer purchase of 7.55 acres for a total of $49,075. That is the report for the ROB. The improvement, after the amendments, there's a net improvement benefit of $1,407,789, and there's temporary damages of 52.92 acres, which totaled $31,752.
and those are the changes for the improvement. Any questions?
Any questions, Dan?
Not at this
Thank you.
time.
Thank you, Dan. At this point, then, first, if there are no additional comments from the public, then we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing and bring them items to the board for further action.
Oh, we got to open
We
the
got a
public hearing.
We got a question?
Got to open the public hearing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I was going to do that. Yeah. Go ahead. You come to the podium. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the public hearing part.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, is this a time for public comment?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, my name is Jared DeMaster. I am a district hydraulics engineer for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I have some comments I would like to make. The first is that the Minnesota Department of Transportation will pay the appropriate amount as a landowner in the system for the maintenance and improvement project as in accordance with the determination of benefits. The Minnesota Department of Transportation will not pay for the tile installed within the highway right-of-way. Minnesota State Statute 103E.525 states road authorities are responsible for bridges and culverts, but not tile. According to the road crossing summary table in Appendix G for the final engineering report for this project, there are tile costs being assigned to MnDOT for the main line and lateral B. We are specifically objecting to these costs as they are not explicitly authorized by state statute. Similar comments were made at the preliminary hearing for this matter on January 20th of 2021 by a representative of MnDOT, and it does not appear that these charges were removed. And the ditch authority will need to obtain a permit in order to perform work within the state right-of-way. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make comments?
Chuck,
What's that?
respond to that.
Oh, you want to, okay, I'm sorry.
I have tried to work on this issue, and I actually had a meeting with the lead engineer for District 7, Greg Ose, and other representatives, and explained how we did the calculations for this, and I had not heard anything back. At this time, I'm just going to pull it up. The standard, and I did review this with Rinke Noonan also prior to the final engineer's report, is that I believe there has been some case law. I can't page up right now. There we go. Since the tile is the crossing, is the only way for water to get across the highway at that location, that is the main crossing, that the way that we are currently proposing to assess the tile is appropriate. At least that was in my meeting with John Kolb from Rinke Noonan. He had said there had been some case law for that. So we haven't changed how we assessed it based on that information. And I will admit the statute is somewhat unclear, but because this is the main crossing, we've typically assessed road authorities, and not just MnDOT, all road authorities, for any tile crossings similar to this, as a repair, not the improvement costs.
And what is the cost of that pipe, Chuck? Do you know? I don't have it pulled up here.
Yeah, 1 second. Joe, is it in the addendum, the full breakdown?
We'll
Nope,
keep,
yeah, it
we
is.
can keep going. Chuck, you can look it up.
Yep, I've got it. Yeah, I'll find it here as we, if somebody else has a question.
Yeah, we'll go
Okay,
through the rest of the
yeah.
public hearing and
We can come
you
back.
can just come back to us.
Yep. So if anybody else wishing to come up, a public comment, you can come forward and,
Mr. Chair, maybe should remind the public that we're limiting comments to 3 minutes.
3 minutes, yes. And we are, reminding, for 3 minutes for your comments.
I do have that pulled up right
You
here.
find it? Okay.
So for the main line, we're proposing the cost to do the improvement is approximately $95,000 to bore the new tile underneath the right-of-way. The cost to repair what was there, based on previous estimates, is $61,000. It'd be about $9,000 to construct if there was no road there. So when you take the difference between those, we're proposing a $53,000 assessment to MnDOT for the main line crossing. And then for the branch line, same calculations, $34,000. So it's approximately $87,000 that we're proposing as a road authority cost to the state for those two crossings. The total cost of those crossings is $135,000. And that is because they have to be bored underneath the road. So.
Right, thank you,
All
Chuck.
right. Thank you, Chuck. And if we have anybody wishing to make a public comment at this period, keep it to 3 minutes or less, can please come forward. Again, if there's anybody wishing to make any public comments on the ditch 35 here, please come forward, state your
Might
name.
want to try to talk a little louder, Mark.
Yep. Oh,
We're having a hard time hearing you.
anybody wishing to comment on ditch 35, please come forward to the podium. And again, repeat again, if anybody wishing to speak on ditch 35 here, please come forward to the podium and state your name, address, and I guess hearing, is that enough? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board here for a motion to approve findings and other approving other rate determination of benefits.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
First of all, I have to start out by telling the staff and ISG, the landowners, the DNR, everybody that's worked on this project has been a very long project. I think we have covered a lot of ground. We've made a lot of adjustments, and we got a good project going here, and it would sure be nice to get this done. But I do need to just talk a little bit about this assessment for the pipe, Chuck. So at the end of the day, if we move forward with this, it's built into assessing MnDOT for the $87,000. They have the recourse to challenge that in court like anyone else would, I would imagine. And our worst case scenario with that would get added back to the project and maybe some attorney fees. So my comment, and not so much a question, but you know, we don't want to get too close to the benefits. It's a pretty tight window at this point. So what's your thoughts, I guess?
Well, and I'm going to make one correction. One of the branches was a repair. We were proposing a repair, $34,000. So on the improvement side of things, it's $53,251.
Okay.
Because the other branch line was a proposed repair that's really not part of the improvement, but it's something that staff has looked at. So we included it in to be inclusive of potential costs.
Okay.
So on the improvement side, it's $53,000.
Okay.
The total benefits are $200,000. So it works either way. From a precedent standpoint, your past projects, township roads, county roads, state highways, this is how it has been done.
It's always been done this way.
Yep.
All right. And we might have some more discussion on that in the future as these costs get expensive. You know, this is a lot for MnDOT to handle. This ain't the only project going on in town, so I can understand their reasoning, and I'm comfortable with what you've come up with, and if you've consulted with the attorneys.
I've consulted with the attorneys. I presented this at the Viewers Association meeting. I presented it at the Township Association meeting, and I'm waiting for somebody to take action to maybe clear up the law, but that hasn't happened. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Chuck, for that, and thank you, Jay, for bringing that to our attention. I don't have any other questions at this time, Mr. Chair, so.
Anybody else?
I would move, we approve the finding an order approving the retermination of benefits, action item number 1.
I will second that.
It's been moved, seconded for action item number 1. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, carries.
Action item 2 would be the finance order for the final hearing.
Yeah, I can't find it, but I will move it.
It's here. Okay, Kip Runder moves for the approval of the final hearing on the proposed improvement to County Ditch 35.
Second.
It's been seconded by Kevin Papp. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
And
We have the jurisdictional,
actually, the final order would be, since we've passed the order for the actual establishing the project, is a resolution to finance it. This gives us the opportunity to bond if we so wish.
I will move that.
Kip will move that. The bonding, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Vance will second. Okay, any discussion? I understand it. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
We are
We have
Done with 35.
done with 35.
35.
So again, thank you everyone for all your time and energy and the project. We have a couple other items to do, but you're all welcome to stay, but thank you.
thank you for all.
We'll give them a few minutes to clear out. Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
56, huh?
Yeah, well, Chuck.
I might stick around
Chuck's-
for that.
Chuck's got to be here for that, yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Oh,
Doesn't
okay.
have to be, but I'm gonna stick around.
It deals directly with you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's see.
All right,
Okay,
let's get started.
okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go with petition for improvement of County Ditch 56.
Next item is a petition for improvement of County Ditch 56. The Blue Earth County Ditch 56 watershed is more than 8,500 acres in size and is located in Garden City and Lincoln Township. We received a petition for improvement on August 22, 2022. Attorney Cale Van Beurden, Rinky Noonan reviewed the petition and found it to be adequate. At today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we are requesting an order to appoint Charles J. Bramble of ISG to prepare a preliminary survey report in accordance with Minnesota Statute 103E.
Okay,
I'll move approval.
Kip moves approval.
Second.
Advance seconds. Petition for improvement of County Ditch 56. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. What else there we have?
The next item is County Ditch 86, improvement of branch 2 and 3, and a petition for lateral and a redetermination. County Ditch 86 was first established in 1956 and is located in Decorah and Beaufort Townships. There are two petition projects before the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority: the improvement of branch 2 and 3 and the establishment of a new lateral. As part of the petition, a redetermination of benefits was also ordered by the Drainage Authority. The hearings are originally set for September 27th, 2022, but due to staff illness, we're unable to meet statutory mailing deadlines for the hearing notices. At today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we are requesting the board set the hearings for improvement and the establishment of a lateral and redetermination of benefits to be held on October 25th, 2022 at 9 a.m. The second floor Board of Commissioners room in the Blue Earth County Historic Society, 204 South 5th, St. 5th Street, Mankato, Minnesota.
I would move to approve.
Okay. Vance, moves the approval of the ditch 86, setting the hearing.
Second.
And second.
Technically,
Kevin.
there's 3 separate orders of it.
Those are 3.
Yeah. First one was order for the petition and the improvement of lateral, of branch 2 and 3.
I'll do that one.
Okay. That's,
And I will second.
that'll be the first one, okay. Is it all clear? All right. Any discussion?
Thanks, Bruce.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carries.
Second is order of a public hearing for the lateral.
Move it.
Kevin moves
Second.
for the public hearing and Vance seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
And the final one was order for public hearing on the redetermination of benefits.
So moved.
It's been moved by Kevin on the order of the public of the terminations. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jillian seconds. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. All right.
That's it.
That it?
That's it.
That should be it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Craig.
Craig. That wasn't so bad.
Thanks for coming, Jake. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Yes, we have,
Well, he was here.
yeah, is he here? Is he out in the hall?
Yeah, he's out. He might be in the
Public
fireplace room.
Works.
Is this like a TV timeout?
If you'd like to do some administration, we could deal with the county board minutes from
Yeah, we can do
August
that.
23rd.
Okay, we do the county board minutes.
I'll move the minutes.
Ryan.
Okay, we're doing that. Okay, and Kip moved the minutes to August 23rd. Is there a second?
I will second.
Kevin seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
He didn't bring a key.
Probably can't get anyways, even if he had his key.
Well, I guess he won.
Go back to Public Works.
Yeah.
We were trying to keep you out.
It's all right.
Morning, Ryan.
You're a busy guy.
We're all set for you now, anyway.
We have an action item today, 2 action items actually. It's consideration of a MnDOT detour agreement for Minnesota Highway 22 that will utilize our county state highways 7, 29, and 46. This is MnDOT contract number 105-1341, and the reimbursement amount, I lost it, is detailed in the agreement. We never generally come out very far ahead on these things. So it's about $8,331.84. So I would recommend approval of the agreement.
Okay,
Move to approve.
okay. Vance moves to approve the recommendation here on detour agreement for Highway 22. Your second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Any discussion? Fair enough, I guess. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
Okay. And then the follow-up to that is consideration of a resolution for the same MnDOT contract number 105-1341 that's included in the board packet as well. I would recommend approval of said resolution.
All right.
So moved.
It's been moved by Kevin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Julianne will second. Move second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
All right, thank you. So we have some project updates, not a lot of action items this month because we're really in that trying to close out construction projects mode, get things opened up before snowflakes start to fly. I know it's nice and warm out today, but we get into September, we start worrying about these kinds of things in the Public Works Department. So with County Road 151 bridge replacement project, the beams have been set. The majority of the site grading is completed. They're actually scheduled to pour the bridge deck next Thursday, so that's coming along nicely for mid-October completion date. County State Highway 1 from 9 to 90, crews are working on placing the facing and the cap of the soil nail retaining walls. So that's been quite a time-consuming process, and it's been really the progress controlling operation on the job site.
That road looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
I've been up and down that road a few times, talking to some of the construction people, and unbelievable, you know, you take basically a cow path, and now all of a sudden it's a major highway, you know, and it's really gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, the corridor is definitely something I think we're going to all be very proud of when it's all said
Yep.
and done. So they're working on staging those walls this week, Wall B, which is one of the big larger walls, and then they'll also be pouring and shooting the facing and the cap for Wall C, which is actually underway right now. So they've got about 60% of the pavement down, of the total project pavement. So it'll come along once the wall work is done, but that's kind of inhibiting everything. So that is tracking for a late October, early November completion, just with the sheer amount of work and kind of the limitations of that lack of ingress and egress for that site. So Mathwoods can't do a ton of work until the wall contractors are kind of out of their way.
Yeah, and you can see where they're not blacktopping that area that they're doing the work on, which of course would dig up the blacktop if they were, you know, doing that. But
Correct.
the stuff that is blacktop is really sweet,
Thank you.
really sweet.
CASA 7 in Mapleton was opened in the last week of August, so that was open prior to school resuming for the new K-12 school there in the city of Mapleton. CASA 11 from 20 to 68, crews began paving at the west end of the project today from CASA 20 over to CASA 50, so that's effectively the western half of that project, so that's a good sign. Artie's continuing to haul gravel and shape the east half from 50 to Minnesota Highway 68, so coming together, still a lot of work to put that all back together, but you know, once the pavement's down and they can start rolling the topsoil up and shaping the ditches and doing turf and stuff, it comes along, but you know, that work is going to continue on into the fall for sure. That was a big project. CASA 12 from 26 east to CASA 2 is underway as well. The north end from the airport entrance to CASA 2 is fully completed and has been open to traffic, so now we're working on phase 2. And the contractor really has the majority of that graded, and they're going to actually begin spreading the reclaimed pavement and gravel across the top, capping it with new gravel over the next week. So that'll work. That work will really start accelerating too and start seeing more progress. They're just waiting on completing the rest of the storm sewer work this week.
So that should be done approximately when?
That was a mid-October
October?
completion date.
Okay.
You know, what's left is about a mile, so it's a relatively short segment of road for us.
Just have a little bit detour now.
Yep. Yep. So we're eager to get that one reopened as well, with the improved turn lanes, wider shoulders. And then kind of our more design level projects, CASA 16 it's one of those projects that we've had on our list forever, and it kind of keeps getting pushed back for other projects or delayed for other reasons. So we're actually making good progress on that now. Nick's been able to kind of put his head down and focus on it, so he's nearing 90% plans for development of the project, so that'll help us begin acquiring right-of-way. We actually anticipate Jack will start buying right-of-way for that, meeting folks this month, so that's a good sign. And we're anticipating that we'll bid that in spring of 2023. You know, you get into an odd time when you start buying right-of-way, and then you really can't catch anybody from Thanksgiving to Christmas, so
Yeah.
we don't like to put bids out then either. So we like to try to put them out in January, February, ideally. You can go into March and April if you have to, but
Earlier the better.
Rather.
So I think we'll be.
That'll be a nice sized project too.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 mile project. That'll be a good little project
Yeah.
for local contractors. CASA 13 from 169 to 1, that's one of those larger grading projects, also includes replacement of a large bridge as well as a bridge box culvert, so that's a pretty massive project. SRF is working on that for us. We're nearing 90% plans this week, so that's moving along well, and we're excited to get going on an acquisition for that as well. And then we also have the section of County State Highway 26 from 57 to 22, and we're expecting 90% plans in October from Open Make on that. That project is very unique in it's going to be a mixture of urban and rural. Urban as we go through that segment up by all of the neighborhoods and by the Wickersham Clinic, and then it'll transition to rural as we go downhill. Combination of either shoulders or bike path along the project. So interesting drainage challenges on that project, and we're working through those, so it's going well. Our maintenance crew's been very busy. We're actually day 2 of a base 1, which is a proprietary product. It's kind of a street name for it, would be considered like a liquid glass. And so this base 1 is actually milled into the road, into the gravel. So we're doing this out on County Road 187, which is the bus road north of Eagle Lake, and then moves and connects to 27. And then also on County Road 185 that runs into Smith's Mill. So we're doing about 6 total miles of this. There was a sale on the product last fall. We got a free tote of it if we bought so many. And then we actually have Mid-States Reclamation in there with a reclaimer and a water truck. So it's a water truck in front connected to the reclaimer. They're going about 4 or 5 miles an hour and grinding this product into the gravel road. So the objective of this is to reduce dust and reduce blading needs, so it will help minimize washboarding, potholing, and things of that nature. So this is the first time we've ever tried this product in Blue Earth County. There have been other counties. I know Waupun uses it quite a bit, and get up north, Holcomb County swears by it. So we're giving it a try, and hopeful that it'll reduce the gravel road maintenance efforts. As maybe an intermediary between some of the past things we've done, which, if you may recall, those cold mix roads we had done in the past. The issue I think we've encountered with those is that people run into those, and while it's just effectively asphalt millings with oil mixed in, double chip sealed, people see that and think it's a blacktop road. Then the heavy trucks go down and disregard the weight postings and they wreck it. So we've ended up having to overlay a lot of those and turn them into blacktop roads. So we're hopeful that this is kind of a good intermediary between a gravel and a paved road as far as keeping dust down and reducing our overall maintenance cost.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
The gravel hauling contract work is complete. That was about 100 miles that was completed this year. So that's where we get that gravel crushing and hauling contract, and that our motor graders, water truck rollers work with those crews. Mainline striping contract is complete. There's a little bit of cross hatching, pavement message arrows, things like that left on Cassat 12. The seal coating and fog sealing work has been completed. Gravel crushing contract work has yet to begin to put up the gravel pile for next year. The County Road 183 culvert and drop structure replacement project is complete. So if anybody has any questions what we're doing there, we're replacing a very deep, significant sized culvert and some drop intakes. Crews are going to resume bituminous road maintenance patching in the next week. They'll also continue shouldering rural roads into the fall, which we do about 80 to 90 miles of those a year, dependent on conditions and need on the county. And then we're also wrapping up mowing out the northern third of the county. So staff have expressed appreciation. You know, the board's support in the equipment budget has helped us to buy larger mower tractors and actually a trifold mower or bifold mower, so it has 3 separate mower decks. That's actually helped quite a bit compared to the Vicon, which is a single tractor and a single cut. So we're getting a lot more. While we can't get into maybe some of the smaller areas, we can get a lot more real estate done faster than we could with those single Vicon units. So it's been helpful because of the staff shortages we've had. That larger equipment has helped make up some ground for us so that we can continue with a third of the county mow out. Any questions on construction or maintenance items at all?
Any questions?
I know.
It's good to know all of it.
So I also included in the board packet a memorandum, as has been routine for the Rapid End Dam updates, just detailing some of the conversations we've had based on direction received from the board on items that where you were looking for additional information or follow through. So with that being said, on August 15th, I discussed the status of the dam with Craig Evans from the United States Army Corps of Engineers. And we had a very lengthy conversation, and I was actually able to gain quite a bit of insight from him regarding the Corps process and some assistance they may be able to provide. First and foremost, the critical step of the Corps' assistance for an ecosystem restoration project, which would mean dam removal and river restoration, would be that obviously the county board would have to first determine that they want to remove the dam. So that would be obviously the linchpin. They would need a resolution or a letter stating that the board would want to remove the dam. And if that's desired, then we could request that the Corps complete a feasibility study for the subject project. That wouldn't obligate us to anything up front because they would have to go into their budgeting process. So by spring of 2023, they'll need to actually submit their fiscal year 2025 budget for congressional appropriation. We would want to, if we wanted to make that, if that's the decision that were made, and that would be the path, that would be the earliest that funding could potentially become available to pay for half of the cost of the study. The county would be, when the congressional appropriation for the Corps' half were approved, then a cost-sharing agreement would have to come into play between the county and the Corps for us to pay for half of the cost of the study. The study can be up, it's capped at $3 million. The Corps, Craig, in my conversation with them, said, we're not fast and we're not cheap, but we're very thorough and we're very good. So that's there. With the Corps being a federal agency, the pace does change, because we have to work through congressional appropriations. With
$3 million total?
Up to $3 million
Up to
total.
$3 million.
I did talk with him subsequently too about our feasibility reports that were completed.
Great, would that help?
And yeah, he certainly thought, and he wasn't aware of those studies when we initially talked. He was actually going to go through and try to find time to look through those a little bit, familiarize himself with that, because he thought there may be quite a bit of information that we've already obtained through our process that would be beneficial for the Corps to lower the cost and perhaps speed up the course of their study. So he was asking questions. I said, yep, we've already hit that in our study, and maybe not to the depth they need, but it's a good start. The fact that we already have a profile and alignment with river and grades determined and things like that would be a great starting point for them. So that would save them quite a bit of time, I believe, and effort.
So if I heard you correctly, 2023, they would put in their requests for money for 2025?
Correct.
So it takes them over a year just to get the money secured. That's just to start the study.
Correct.
And the study, I would imagine, would take
Yeah.
2 to 5 years.
The funding process takes a minimum of 2 years. Once the funding is approved, they would strive to complete the feasibility study within 3 years.
3 years.
So 5.
So that'd be
Just to
2028
study.
before the
Yeah.
study could be completed.
Or, yeah, correct.
But nothing gets started until we make a decision.
Correct.
They won't even,
They won't put it in their
they
budget
won't
until
put
they-
in nothing in until we make a decision.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
This study would be intended to meet the requirements for an environmental impact statement and would be a very conclusive study that would, or not conclusive, but all
Extensive.
extensive study that would seek to cover all of the needs so that the Corps could make a recommendation or not to Congress and in their budget for whether or not removal is feasible and economical. So with a positive report, then if it's determined it's effective, then they would make a recommendation to Congress for dam removal and river restoration. And then we would go into the process of congressional appropriations for the larger scale project. The larger scale project would be funded at a 65-35 cost share, where federal funds would cover 65% of the total project cost, and the Corps would actually be project managers for the project, which to me, that if we go that road, or that route, is certainly a strong benefit because of their strong project management expertise. He did state that, at times the project costs tend to be higher because of the federal bureaucracy and the paperwork required and things of that nature. I think we anticipated that this large scale of a project isn't going to be a local contractor necessarily, One other item I think they might have wanted to touch on is that we did discuss the fact that the county has those FEMA dam repair dollars. We're not able to use those as matching dollars. The Corps does not allow, or federal requirements do not allow you to utilize other federal dollars as matching. They have to be local, but I think it would be very realistic to think that we'd be able to go and talk with either the DNR about assistance, or perhaps the Minnesota legislature with a direct appropriation to assist us with that. And I would anticipate it would come through the dam safety program regardless.
For our 35%.
For the 50% of the study cost.
Oh, the study, okay.
And subsequently for the 35% matching cost, at least a portion of that would be, I would anticipate would come from state funds. I'm sure that would be our strategy. So, let's see here. With that, the congressional allocation funding could take up to 5 years and would likely require county legislative engagement efforts. I think we all would anticipate that would be the case. Additional conversation, you know, I did ask, could we, with our FEMA knowledge, could we, to speed up this process, could we pay for the study using those FEMA dollars that we have in the bank? And could we engage the Corps staff and get a study going with a qualified firm to complete it and engage the Corps along that process? And that may be problematic, but it has, I think that it warrants further exploration and discussion, because the Corps only has a limited budget for their staff to be engaged in things outside of direct studies that they're actually working on. So that may be a hang up, but I did at least ask that question: is there a way that we could accelerate this if we chose to do so with those funds? Generally speaking, the Corps again can accept federal funds from other agencies as part of cost sharing. They're receptive to a call, so we have a call scheduled for this upcoming Monday, September 19th at 11 a.m. I did have an invitation extended to administration and Commissioners Sturenberg and Papp. If any of you would like to join in the call, I'd be more than happy to send it to you as well, but I know they've been in past calls, so I kept them on it. I wanted to make you all aware of that. And then I did provide a link to the report about partnering with the Corps of Engineers that really details all of this. I try to provide you effectively with a Cliff Notes version of it in my report here. So if you need something to help you sleep at night, you got the link to read it. So on August 16th, we discussed the board work session. I mean, you guys were all there, so I'll probably skip over that one. I'm just following up on that. But August 26th, Public Works Department staff held a conference call with representatives from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, Dam Safety and Public Waters Divisions, and discussed the following items. We discussed providing an update. We provided them with an update regarding the public outreach campaign, similar as to what was presented to the county board on August 16th. Provided an update regarding our recent correspondence with the Corps, and we inquired, based on the conversation with the county board, if the dam were to be repaired to remain safely in place without hydroelectric production, what would the requirements be? And effectively their answer was what I had anticipated. If it's still licensed by the FERC, all licensure would continue to be through the FERC. They wouldn't have any significant role with it. More likely that if that were the scenario, we would decide it was more prudent to surrender the FERC licensure exemption, and then the DNR would eventually require an action plan for necessary repairs, likely to be very similar in scope to what the Corps has already listed. They would take that into consideration. Look at the Corps' list, and they would anticipate it would be very similar to the FERC's list of repair items that are necessary. I also inquired if another entity or party were interested in obtaining ownership of the dam. What would the process or what would the requirements be? There are Minnesota state statutes and rules that address this topic. I have them listed in the memo, and I tried to summarize them to an extent. But effectively, a potential owner must have the financial capability to perpetually and properly maintain and operate the dam. That is a fairly large sticking point, because I think we all know the cost of it. The permit process for ownership transfer would be heavily reviewed for risk assessment, financial capabilities of the said buyer, process overall, dam hazard classification, and existing conditions assessment. Other conditions would likely to be placed on the ownership transfer as part of the permitting process for them to bring that back online. The DNR may also elect to have its a graphic of what river restoration would look like to help them perhaps better explain it to the public. And they also may send staff to our FERC annual safety inspection at the dam this Thursday. But I think really probably important to jump back to that ownership transfer. They didn't say no, but it sounds like there'd be a very arduous process along the way if we were even able to find somebody that were interested and had the financial wherewithal to take ownership of the dam. So if there's any questions on that one, 'cause that's kind of a big question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything new or anything that we didn't suspect would be in there, so.
And the rest of this is really just kind of reminders of the continuing operational and monitoring costs and needed follow-up once we have more direction on where we want to go with this, as well as outstanding tasks. That spreadsheet that was previously shared, and didn't see a point of continually reinserting that into this document, but that still remains valid. And I think obviously next month, hopefully I'll have a report out from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission on our annual safety inspection to see what comes of that. So that'll be very interesting. This will be the first time we'll have done that without Eagle Creek as operator of the dam. But I will have staff from Bar Engineering down to do the tour with me, as well as county staff and myself. Any questions?
All right, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So I would like to back up just a little bit and just talk a little bit more about if we were to just get rid of our FERC permit, and just make sure I'm clear.
Yep.
So if we get rid of the FERC permit, they're saying we could probably have it still stay there without it producing energy, but we would have to do all of the repairs that FERC was kind of
Yep.
referring to
That's-
keep it
That's
safe.
the impression I received. You'd have to do all of the safety repairs that the FERC has listed on that spreadsheet that I provided
Yep.
previously.
And then we would just hold the DNR license with them, or do we have a license
The DNR would have to do a new license for it.
for it,
That's
since we're not producing energy?
correct.
Okay.
But I think the overall process would be similar. It just would be that we'd be dealing with a state agency instead of a federal agency, and there may be without hydro, because right now our licensure is based on hydro.
Hydro. So if we didn't have hydro, they might let us.
Likely lower the monitoring requirements and some of the overall
And-
out-of-pocket costs, but they're still, we're set to do the downstream apron sounding survey tomorrow, and generally speaking, we like to close the gates for that, just for worker safety. Now, river flows are down about 100 CFS. The gates, we can get them down. We're not sure that we could get them all back up, because they've been borrowing Rob and Peter to pay Paul on parts just to operate those. So, we may have to have new cogs and components manufactured
Just to make that
get
work.
them open, and they're not even going to seal properly. So we decided, because flows are low enough, it's safe enough
Just
to put
get in there.
staff out there. Yeah. So we'll also find out, after we get that survey data pulled in, if that scour hole has grown at all over the year, actually 2 years, because we weren't able to get a survey done last year.
So they'll give us some more information on what the stability of the dam is
Correct, if that hole has grown at all.
from 2 years ago. So that'll be a good
Right.
window.
It's a tough thing. I'm actually glad that it's as dry as it is for that regard, because it'll help us really kind of get a better feel for where the limits are of that scour hole and the depth. So many times you're fighting the current, and we've tried different survey methods. We've actually tried a sonar mite unit that actually mounts on the boat, goes in the water, it's supposed to ping a signal down. Well, with the turbulent, dirty water, you don't get a good signal, so
Sure.
we've had a bunch of junk data points, and we found it's still most efficient to go out there with a grade rod and actually get old-fashioned shots.
High technology, huh?
So,
Got 200,000 of technology in that boat. We still use the old rod.
John Bolton and the rod, yep, that's right. So,
The question,
Vance?
if we decide to not go with producing electricity and decide just to repair the dam, what is the possibility of getting help from the state or federal government to do that?
Good question. I don't know that I can give you an answer, because I'd be guessing. I'd have to make assumptions that I don't know that I'd be comfortable. I can certainly track that down and
Yeah.
ask the DNR about that. it's, you know, a lot of it comes down to, from past efforts, my understanding is that we've had to certainly get legislative assistance from our area legislators to push those bills through so that it makes its way into the dam safety account. They do have a list, they told me, of projects and repairs needed. So if it's not an operational facility, I don't know if that helps or hurts the case. I would anticipate it probably doesn't help, but I can chase that down a little farther if you'd like.
That would be really important.
Yeah.
Because we've always depended on the state to help us do the repairs. And if the state is not going to help us because we're not generating electricity anymore and it's just there as a showpiece, it's going to cost the taxpayers in Blue Earth County a lot of money.
I think it's worth, exploring or looking at.
Yeah. I know, you know, there might be some infrastructure resiliency dollars at the federal level too, and it's hard to say how something like this would compete when it's a non-functional facility that's now is just would just really become somewhat cosmetic. Money, you know.
It's a showpiece.
Yep.
Do we have any money left to put into the repairs of the dam? You were talking about some of the money we had left to use for the study. Is there some money left there to put some more repairs to the dam?
I could talk with the Homeland Security Emergency Management Department. That was really meant to be used for repairs.
And for an item that happened in a certain
So we
storm.
could, as long as we would, if that's what we decided we wanted to do, I mean, I have to ask for an extension of that money by, I believe it's June or April of next year,
Okay.
2023. So we maybe will be able to get it, but then we've got to schedule the project and try to get it spent within that deadline. So it starts getting tight, you know, to spend that $1 million+ and that was really all primarily centered around downstream apron repairs.
Right.
Training wall, so we'd have to dive back into that with
You'll know
agency.
more tomorrow, probably, or after the study for this work you're gonna do tomorrow, as how much repairs you need to do down
We know
there.
how bad the scour is,
Yeah.
we know what the urgency is.
Right, we really, that's a monitoring of the scour hole, so yeah, if we find major hole development, it's all of a sudden dramatically deeper. What I probably, I shouldn't even say what I would guess it's gonna look like, because we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
There is a shorter, very robust apron underneath it that I think will provide short-term protection.
Okay.
for the
That's kind of where I was
future.
going with the
Yep.
question. So, Mr. Chair, if we may, can we just maybe back up to the process that you were talking about first with the Army Corps of Engineers and the removal and the process?
Yep.
Because it's what I see happening here is that we're gonna have a dam, but even if we start that process, it could be 8 to 10 years before they start removing the actual physical dam, you know, from the study, if we just take all the proper steps, if I was kind of figuring that out properly, you know, we gotta make a decision by spring, they don't get the money till 2025, that starts. So I think we're gonna have to talk about just keeping the thing safe for at least the next several years, regardless of what we do. So I think it's important that we try to figure out how we're gonna fund that, and you'll know more tomorrow.
After we get the results of the survey, absolutely. I mean, if that's not progressing and the FERC looks at that too, you know, I mean, that'll be a good litmus test, is if the FERC reviews those results and goes, well, do they deem it as a threat?
Yeah.
Because I think really that's where we probably may want to look at taking direction, is the federal or the state agencies who are responsible for dam safety, and do they deem that as a significant safety threat or not?
Right. So if they say yes, it is, we won't be able to get it tore out fast enough, we'll have to dump some money into the bottom of it to hold it up. And if they say, no, it looks safe, but you guys need to really think about the future of this thing.
That's a process we'd certainly have to have
Yeah.
that conversation with them. I think they understand where we are at. I've had those conversations with the FERC. And yeah, once direction is determined, I think they understand. And then all of a sudden too, if does that change the narrative? If they know that we're pursuing removal, then are they worried about it? If knowing kind of, what's the risk management, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I'd hate to spend $1 million plus in doing a patch repair for something that we ultimately decide we want to
Tear it
Not-
down.
Not that we know enough about how it's gonna get removed, but
Right.
it probably will be removed in the future. I mean, even though it is in the bed of the dam, it will probably have to come back out. So not only will we pay a bunch of money to get it in there, but it's gonna cost us probably more to tear it out in those conditions. So, I think the conversation you had with the Army Corps was very productive. I think that gives us a lot to think about. We don't, I mean, even if we made a decision next year, you know, to move towards this study, it's several years before you even start seeing any action at the dam, I would imagine. So that's part of the difficult decision about making the decision, is, yeah, you make the decision today, but it'll be several years before anything happens, and that can kind of let everybody prepare for it if that's the direction we end up going and deal with it. But it is just gonna get more and more complicated to keep it up.
It's interesting, then you deal with the Corps, and they even admit how long processes they have to go through, so yes. Yeah.
I don't even want to ask how much money we got into studies on this thing.
Yeah.
Just into the studies. And then you top it off with this, but,
I've got cabinets full of studies on the dam.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Anybody else?
Good report, though.
Good
Yeah,
report.
very good
Very good
report.
information.
Good,
Hopefully
Very
thorough.
good
Yep.
information. I'm glad to see that it was in the packet, so if someone did want to be here while we were talking about it today, they certainly were able to do that. So I appreciate that also.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you,
That's all I
Ryan.
have.
Very
Thank you. Have a
good.
good day.
Thanks,
You
Ryan.
too. Do you want to take a little break?
Fine.
Oh, I think we,
Aren't in a big-
You want to keep
we
going?
don't
Plow
have
through
much
it?
left.
Okay, we don't have much left, so, all right. At this point, Mr. County Attorney?
Thank you, Mr.
Chair,
Commissioners. If anybody has any specific questions relating to the monthly report, please let me know. I'm not going to go over that, it speaks for itself. Last week I was at a conference with County Attorneys Association, and there was some, what I found to be some pretty interesting information and some trend shifts and whatnot. Just regarding the employment market, county attorneys' offices across the state are having the same issues as, well, law enforcement and then many other employers in the nation with recruitment and retention. That was a topic of discussion that we delved into. And I just thought it would be interesting to provide you with some of that information. You know, during this pandemic, some have called it the Great Resignation because 47 million people have resigned from the workforce. Right now in May, there were 11.7 million job openings nationwide that are going unfilled. Excuse me, unfilled. It's also interesting to note that pre-pandemic, 1 in 67 jobs was posted for remote work, and today 1 in 7 jobs is posted for remote work. Some of my colleagues across the state, they've had attorneys that jump from one county to another because of the offering of a hybrid of remote work, working from home at some point in time. There's also, because of who's making up the workforce, some will say that over 50% of the workforce by 2025 will be millennials. And millennials, let me get you some information on that. Millennials are most likely to leave a job, 53% are most likely to leave a job if there is no remote work offered. Whereas Gen Z, and to put that into context, millennials were born from 1981 to 1996. Gen Z from 1996 through the mid-2000s. So, and then with that, 33% of Gen Z employees are likely to seek another job if there's no remote work. And Gen Zs by 2025 are expected to make up 27% of the workforce. And so the vast majority of people that have been leaving the workforce are the baby boomers, and there's quite a few of us that fit into that category in this room. So
I just thought that was some interesting information that was provided, and we had a pretty healthy discussion because there's numerous openings in county attorneys' offices across the state, and we have seen that in the past with trying to, and so there's more of a push on recruitment and retention statewide. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah. Kip?
Pat, did they have any statistics on how many people are getting into the field in the county attorneys? You know, is that down too, or?
That is down. For the first time, and I mean, it was a kind of the standing joke, are there enough lawyers in the state? And I've talked to some private firms, some individuals in private firms here locally. They're seeing the same trend. They're having difficulties recruiting anybody to come, especially in outstate, is more of a, this goes back to about 10 years ago where the average age of an attorney in outstate Minnesota was 55 and in the metro it was 45. So over half of the law school students from Mitchell-Hamlin and over half of the law school students from the University of Minnesota leave the state. Many attorneys don't even go into private practice or into the public sector. They go into other business ventures or other business areas. So that trend I think is going to get worse as time goes on, but we're working on trying to move that forward. So
How about St. Thomas?
I don't know about St. Thomas. They didn't say what percentage of their law school students went out of state. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Anything else? All right. Okay. Administration again.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I had number 7 in the packet are the bills for the 3 weeks indicated.
I'll move the bills.
Kip moves the bills and Vance seconds. Any questions with the bills? All right, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. That was easy.
Item number 8 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We just have informational items for the board today. Been an active HR period here since our last meeting. Starting out with 10 different positions that were filled, starting with a facilities maintenance technician, then a library clerk on call, actually 2 of those. We filled a correctional officer in the jail, a couple of those that are full-time, and then a part-time correctional officer as well. We also filled an eligibility specialist in our human services area. We also filled a property environmental resource specialist 1 in our property environmental resources department. Also filled an appraiser in the property environmental resources department, as well as another PER specialist that's a part-time position. Then item K on the agenda lists a promotion of an assistant jail administrator to the jail administrator. So we've now filled that position and initiated recruitment to refill the assistant jail administrator position. We also had a promotion of a property and environmental resources specialist 1 to a property and land specialist in our property environmental resources department, so we've initiated to backfill that vacancy. Then we've initiated recruitment to fill a county attorney division chief on the civil side, replacing a position that left us a few months ago. Then we had some resignations. We had a resignation of a part-time library clerk, so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. We had a resignation of a business analyst and application developer in our IT department and have initiated recruitment to refill that position. We had a resignation of a clerical specialist in human services, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. We had a resignation of our chief bailiff and have initiated recruitment to refill that position. Resignation of a correctional officer and initiated recruitment to refill that. And then resignation of a 911 telecommuter, our dispatch personnel, so we've initiated recruitment to fill that. And lastly, resignation of a librarian in the library, so we've initiated recruitment to refill that. So a lot of activity, some driven by individuals completing their careers with the county, others situations of people moving on to other opportunities. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have on any of those items.
Any questions, Bob, on any of those?
I, just noting that Don Gabler has given a lot of himself over the last years. He was a sheriff's deputy, and he obviously he's doing his final retirement, and anybody that wishes to call him and tell him thanks for his service. That was he's really given a lot of himself over the years for Blue Earth County.
All right, item number 9 in your packet is a memo regarding setting a public hearing. The Blue Earth County Sheriff's Office is in the process of implementing body-worn cameras, and so according to Minnesota statute, a public hearing must be held prior to the implementation of those cameras, and so the department is recommending setting the hearing for Tuesday, September 27th, 9 a.m. here in the historic courthouse.
I would move to approve.
Been moved by Vance. There a second?
I'll second.
Second by Julianne. Any discussion? I guess it's bound to happen. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. All right.
Item number 10 in the packet then, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, is the financial status report for August 31st. We are 2/3 of the way through our fiscal year at this point. You'll see total revenues are at $70.5 million against expenses of $71.2 million. We pretty much are right on target with our revenues at this point in the year. Expenses, excuse me, are running just slightly above budget at this point, mostly due to those contracts and fees lines, which are our road projects. Overall, things are progressing nicely. Our state and federal revenue is down some from prior years, but is on good pace compared to our budget. So there's been some adjustments there. Our interest on investments, obviously with the market being somewhat volatile, you'll see that we're seeing some unusual outcomes there. On the expense side, really things are lining up pretty well. The debt service, maybe I draw your attention there a little bit. We're quite a bit under budget at this point in time, but that's because we usually have annual payments on some of our debt that come up in the fourth quarter of the year. So you'll see that number changing. So overall, things are progressing nicely. On the enterprise fund for the Ponderosa landfill, you'll see that total revenues are at $3 million with expenses at just a little bit over $1.4 million. Again, as I mentioned before, without cell development or significant machinery and equipment expenditures, we typically see this scenario where revenues are exceeding expenses. On the second page are cash and investment balances. You'll see towards the bottom of the page that our total county funds sit at $134 million. So we continue to hold a strong reserve position. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Mr.
Any
Chair,
questions about?
we only have the 2 bonds, right, that are left, one on the Justice Center, one on the...
For the county per se, we have ditch bonds, which kind of are a fiduciary responsibility, but yes, just the 2 for the county.
And they're due to be paid off in 25 and 27?
26, 27, or
Okay.
25, 26, yeah.
Okay.
Not too far out.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. I guess that concludes.
That's all I
Thank
have
you,
for you,
Bob.
Mr. Chair.
All right. And I guess we have down to commissioner reports. Let's go, Julianne.
Oh,
You're ready.
right away. Well, we haven't met for a while since the last meeting, but I've had meeting the Region 9 Development Board last week, and we discussed, sorry, backing up to what the meeting was about, but we're just going over some, learnings that the Development Board has been conducting, and the future, some strategic planning coming up, and there is the full commission meeting coming up here in the next couple of weeks, where some business will be done. That's the end of my report.
All right. And let's go with Kevin.
Okay, since our last board meeting, also that, on that same day, we had work session, also had a JD 83 hearing in that afternoon, and I attended the Lake Crystal Area Rec Center's annual meeting. The next day, on August 24th, our Rural Minnesota Energy Board actually met in Mankato. We toured the Wilmarth plant, which was very interesting. I have not been there before, so that was an interesting way as we looked at energy sources. The next day, we had a JD9 landowners meeting I attended. On the 26th was our 8th Le Sueur River One Watershed, One Plan Policy Committee meeting. So we're continuing to have those monthly meetings as we look at implementation as well as what kind of structure to go to. On the 31st, I'm part of an AMC Implement of Husbandry work group. That, in farm terms, implement of husbandry is farm equipment. As we're looking at, and that's a work group put together based on some of the policy recommendations by the State Engineers Association, and as we look at total gross weights, bridge weights versus payment, and things like that. So both total and axle will continue to meet in that. On the 7th, we had a JD 36 ditch meeting in the morning, and then department heads after that. September 8th, the drainage work group, which I sit on for AMC through Bowser, had their 5th meeting, as well as soil and water monthly meeting, and then we had mayors and clerks that evening. So conversations are kind of the same as last report. MFS composting, lots of dam calls, and of course ditches and drainage issues. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, Kip.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. After our last meeting, I had my statewide emergency communication legislative meeting twice. We had one item that we had to discuss and get on the agenda for the regular board meeting, but we're getting spooled up for the upcoming session and trying to get some things pushed through there. I was out of town for a good chunk of that time, but did manage to make it back for the department head meeting and planning and zoning. We only had a couple items on planning and zoning that were pretty straightforward. They'll be coming to us next month. And then we had MRCI executive meeting yesterday, and Brian just gave the executive committee a update on the things that are going on. Things are very strong, budget-wise. All the buildings are gone. Still have vans to fill and trying to find some employees. And this Friday is the fundraiser, which is the Whose Line Is It Anyways, I believe. So I am not going to be available to go, but if any of you want to go, it's Friday at 5 or 6, and there are tickets still available, I would imagine. So I wasn't going to make it to it earlier, so I didn't see if we wanted to get a table together, but that is usually a pretty good fundraiser for them, and they are looking forward to having that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Skip. Vance.
All right, well, it's always been mentioned, the work session after our last board meeting on the 23rd. On September 1st, I had a South Central TZD board meeting at MnDOT. On the 7th, we had our department head meeting. On the 8th, I had a NACO transportation Zoom meeting, and then that evening, mayors and clerks at Lake Crystal. I met with you and Commissioner Papp there. That was kind of fun too, because we walked around earlier and they had their antique cars up and down the streets in Lake Crystal, and got to talk to a lot of folks from Lake Crystal that I haven't seen in years. September 12th, I had a Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund TDS meeting, Zoom, and then I had a Detox Board meeting in New Ulm. And then this morning I met with Ryan on our information on the Transportation Alliance fly-in that's coming up next week, and information that we're going to be talking to our federal folks about. And the Rapidan Dam certainly is one of those projects that we figured we need to certainly start telling them about, even if it's a long-term project. They need to start hearing about it. So we're going to be talking to them about that. And that's the end of my report, sir.
Okay, thank you, Vance. Okay, mine is just, Tuesday, August 23rd, after the board meeting, did that work session and a joint ditch 83 repair. And Thursday, September 1st, we did our Partners for Housing, just a smaller group, a search committee meeting on getting a new director. And then had Maple Policy Board meeting on that Thursday that evening, and we did approve like our 2023-26 Transportation Improvement Plan, amongst other things. And then Wednesday, September 7th, was our department head meeting, and as Vance said, Bob was there, we went to mayors and clerks in Lake Crystal, and although that was a highlight, I thought it was a really good highlight to see all those all those cars that that we wish we could have. Yeah, and
It was
we
a lot
did
of
meet
fun. It was a lot of fun.
And of course, Vance being a former officer there, yeah. But I knew some people, but he really knew a lot of people there. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a nice town.
Yep.
I really like Lake Crystal.
Yep. And so, yeah, well, that actually concludes my report. So, anything else for the good of the order here? Yes,
I would move to recess.
recess. Kip moves to recess. And
Second.
Second. I think it was Kevin, I believe. Okay. So second for recess. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right.
All right.